Wanna freeze this moment, make it mine, hold you close. Now my heart's wide open. When I'm with you, suddenly I feel no pain. Do you make it go away? Do you make it? Close. Now my heart's wide open. When I'm with you, suddenly I feel no pain. Do you make it go away? Do you make it? Do you make it go away? Do you make it? Do you make it go away? Do you make it? Do you make it go away? Do you make it go away?
Opportunistic, still rubbing panels as they go together. It's folded the wing mirror in on Gerardo's car.
Misano is such a difficult circuit for these guys to get right. There's a lot of start-stop sections around the back. It's a very, very quick section as well.
It's a fantastic start from the 23. They're 4 wide there by the look of it. Warning, the following video contains flashing imagery that may cause discomfort and or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Tell me somebody how long he will be on my mind. You will be on my mind.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome to Chaz Draycott Media and welcome to round 2 of season 2 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We're here at the legendary Sebring International Raceway the wonderful home to so much endurance racing that goes on throughout the year and incredible GT racing, many different forms over in America. My name is Chaz Draycott. I'm delighted to be joined in the commentary box once again by my good friend Ed May. And Ed, I tell you what, it's been a hell of a championship and we've only had one round so far, so bring on the next one.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Chaz. And we're going to, like you say, the Sebring International Raceway, a circuit that has had a bit of a facelift, hasn't it? Just on the current, well, the most recent build of the iRacing service, they've brought out a nice little reskin for this circuit. It did have a few teething problems, didn't it, Chaz, when it was brought out? But those should have hopefully been fixed with the most recent patch that came out just today. So I think iRacing, they knew we were going to be coming here, and they got it all dressed up nice for us.
They did indeed, and they've done a fantastic job of it as well. We were having a look around it just before the broadcast went live, and you are in for a real treat tonight, everybody. I can't guarantee that my frame rate is, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. One thing we do need to look at is the championship standings after the first round of the season, and it was Simon Povey for Spontex CDM Esports. Get in. Taking the win and pole position as well. Callum Brandt, what a drive he put in to finish in second position, with Lewis Ward in third. The rest of the field, including Matthias Tem, very, very impressive. There were a lot of new names that Ed and I haven't commentated on before that were really showing promise. RD Simsport leads Spontex CDM Esports in the Teams Championship, with Boosted Simsport right behind them in third. But due to the new points system this season, Ed, it's looking very, very close all the way through the pack, and it's going to remain that way, isn't it, across the whole championship?
Yeah, it will do, and that will obviously help out some drivers that might not be able to make every single round. I know we are missing a very important name, and that is Simon Povey, last season's champion and also race winner from the first round at Road Atlanta. So while he will be dropping down the order in the championship, there is still plenty of scope for him to get himself back up into the mix. Does mean, of course, we will have a new race winner here in the SRM GT4 Challenge, because I think it was last season, it was pretty much, if it wasn't Simon, then it was me winning. So now we might have someone new coming up through to taste victory.
I like that subtle brag, Ed. I love that subtle brag. But absolutely, you're right, though. It was very, very good last season because the quality at the top of the field, I mean, to be fair, no disrespect, I'd say it's even higher now because of how close it is between all of the drivers. You know, there's little to separate them. We've got Lewis Ward fastest at the moment. Here is Simon Povey's teammate Gary Tall. He's hoping to potentially take a victory for Spontex CDM Esports. We were just looking at Brian Crowles a moment ago as well in the Wins Mercedes. He was doing quite well at Road Atlanta at the first round of the season, but then it sort of dropped off towards the end, didn't it, unfortunately? He had a few issues and a few spins here and there, and we sort of lost him from the top end of the pack.
Yeah, we did, unfortunately, but we can hopefully see a little bit more from him here tonight. Of course, we want to see a bit more from Callum Brandt as well, who drove so well, didn't he, last time out? I believe got himself driver of the race just a couple of weeks ago. So we'll look forward to seeing what he can do. Lewis Ward impressed last season, impressed last time out as well. You can see if he'll be able to challenge at the very top. Obviously, he's probably one of the favourites, I think it's fair to say, to challenge Simon Povey for the title this time out. Of course, he is topping this practice session as well that has 5 minutes remaining, but might not necessarily represent what the order will be in qualifying, because the drivers don't have as much time to set those times, and of course be absolutely dying to get the laps in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, that's it. We have shortened the session in qualifying from last season. Partway through last season, it was already shortened from 30 minutes to 20 minutes because we, as in me, in the broadcast booth, realised that there wasn't much going on after about the sort of 10-15 minute mark. People had put a time in, and then as the circuit got hotter and hotter and with more rubber on it, people just weren't able to improve. There were certain sessions where it got colder, and it did get quicker near the end, but it was very rare that that happened. So what we're doing this season is a 15-minute qualifying session, and it is an open session as well, so everybody is on track together. We're not taking advantage of the fact that here on iRacing, you can have lone qualifying, can't you, Ed, where it's just you and nobody else on track with all the time in the world to go and do your lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Lone qualifying is one where I think tend to struggle, really. I like the sense of a live track with everyone around. It makes me feel a little less alone, like there's less pressure on me. You can obviously know as well with the lone qualifying that we use in the Formula Renault 3.5 that's also broadcast by yourself, Chaz. It's coming up this week, I believe, this Thursday. They only have one shot for their qualifying lap, which, at least for me, hasn't really been the best, because inevitably with how tricky these 3.5s are to drive, I find a lot of drivers not being able to set lap times. Here the GT4's slightly more forgiving, but of course what we saw last time out was the track limits catching drivers out, which we may see here tonight at Sebring. That final sector when you're coming up through Le Mans curve is, well, it's certainly not too tricky to find yourself stepping a little bit too over what iRacing deems acceptable for the track limits, and get yourself quite a heavy penalty in the fact of losing a very quick lap, and all of a sudden, right at the end, it's taken away from you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely spot on, Ed. It's one of those circuits where you see it on the surface and you think, yeah, it looks like quite a forgiving racetrack, this. You know, you can probably get away with quite a lot around here, but when you actually try and push the car and use all the road and carry as much of a wide racing line as you can and keep the speed up, it really can bite you in the backside so quickly. And I think that the drivers need to remember that this evening.
As well, we can see there are little details that we'll have to see here when iRacing make their circuits, or sort of model them as they are in real life. And one of the favourite things I have is the little cone that is hanging over the edge at turn 1 that sort of helps drivers to spot the apex, because it's so difficult when you're on board to see exactly where we're going. As we get a nice shot of the rear end of the 111.
Yeah, that's Andy Marston having a bit of a spin. Boss man. That's a car I painted, though, so we're getting a look at every angle of it, and he's got a bit of damage on the front right, actually, so he's going to pull that back into the pits. We'll go back and look at John Barnes, though, because that little cone that you mentioned, we'll probably get a decent look at it if we go on board with him here. So watch the inside fence. There's a very famous cone here at Sebring that hangs over the top of it, isn't there, Ed?
Yeah, and I think a little bit of lore about that cone. I'm not sure if this is 100% right, but I remember hearing that it was actually an idea implemented by David Coulthard when he was retiring from Formula 1. I believe he was testing, I think it was an LMP2 car, wasn't it, around here or something like that?
Yeah, it was some sort of prototype.
Basically, was when he was going around doing a track walk, he picked up a cone and basically hung it up there to help figure out where the exact apex was, because obviously he was a driver that hadn't driven the circuit before, and it kind of just stuck. They sort of stuck with it, didn't they?
Yeah. The thing is, I love stories like that, the little details in motorsport, and so many people will see that and they won't even think, why is that there? They'll just see that there's a cone up there and they won't really put much thought into it, and it's a bit of a shame, to be honest, because it is a lovely little story. We have a lot of cars on track tonight. We have 26 of the 30 that we're limited to in this field. There's Fausto Pinto just nipping back to the pits as soon as I look at him, I should say. But 26 cars, not a bad turnout whatsoever. We do have a grid limit of 30 for this season, 30 active drivers as well currently signed up. There is a reserve list for the championship if you do still want to try and get in. We will not be accepting any new drivers to the grid after round 5. So after the first half of the season is done, we will not accept any new blood onto the grid, because as we've both seen before, Ed, unfortunately to other people's sort of disgruntlement, championships can be affected later on if a really fast driver suddenly comes in and ruffles a few feathers. For example, we've both seen it where they can sort of not ruin championships, but they help determine the result, and that's not really what we want to do in a championship like this. It's all a good fun laugh with these guys, isn't it? We've got a great community behind it, and it would be a shame, even if it's not somebody's intention, for them to just come in and just slightly muck it up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. It is a shame, of course, for those drivers that have put themselves on the reserve list that might not get a chance to race with us this season. But of course, from the popularity of the SRM GT4 Challenge, you can almost guarantee that there is going to be yet more on the cards for all these drivers, and plenty more opportunities for them to get involved down the line. Of course, we do as well have the occasional SRM special event. We had I believe it was the Rock Around the Clock, wasn't it, at Lime Rock? It was a really great event that's on, that got plenty of drivers out on circuit, so you'd imagine there will be some more of those in the pipeline as well.
I hope so at some point soon, because it was a really good fun event, that. And of course you won the GT4 class as well, Ed. It was a wonderful performance. You saved yourself and your teammate James Boomy. Didn't even look like you were going to get it done at one point, because I think you had an early mistake or an off or something went wrong, and then all of a sudden you were leading after the pit stops and it worked out. And I don't know why I'm telling this to you like you don't know that already, but
no,
still.
It was James who biffed it up at the sort of the big crest coming through, I believe.
God's sake, James.
Yeah, I think it was turn 5. I can't remember what corner it is, but it's that horrible one where you get a lot of rear sort of the rear end sticking down the front end, hanging up in the air. Tell you what, it wouldn't be too bad to see a round of all of these GT4s going through there, because you'd imagine 30 cars, it would be a bit of chaos.
It would indeed. We're just waiting for John Tusting to get clearance to take off in the aptly liveried boosted motorsport Aston Martin. It's carrying a green and brown camouflage pattern with black on it, as well as you would have seen on something like a Lancaster bomber during World War II. Now, Sebring itself actually used to host a B-17 squadron from the US Air Force during the times of World War II, and that's why it's so straight down here. Basically, it is an old airfield and it's so flat because of that as well. It's got 2 parallel runways, which were this back straight here and the main start-finish straight. And it's a wonderful place to race, to be fair, but it's great that they've kept that history about it. It's one of those circuits that's never really changed over time, has it?
Yeah, and I think that history is tied into some of the names of parts of this circuit. I know we have what we call the Flying Fortress Straight, which is just out of Tower Turn, which was obviously named, like you say, after those B-17s, and I think as well it was used for the B-52s as well at one stage, or
I don't think it was. I'm not. It might. I think it might have been a B-25 Mitchell.
May have been.
Same numbers, just the other way around. But Tower Turn, yeah, like you say, they're named aptly because that's where the control tower used to be, on that corner. And it's just great that history comes with it. I do love that. We've got times coming in at the bottom of the screen now. People crossing the line and finishing their outlaps. It looks like Stuart Clark is going to be the first one on a fully fast lap, let's call it. He's got Ben Gregory behind him there. You can see that signified by the bottom. I love this Rusty's Roasts BMW. It's not the most complex and busy livery in the world, but it just looks really good on that car with the little red flames on it and the red wheels as well. Fantastic looking bit of kit. Hello everybody in the chat, by the way. Good to have you with us this evening. I see a lot of you there. We've got Lee Duncan from E-Team Hard as well, and they will apparently be signing up for Season 3 of this championship. It'd be great to have you guys. Maybe a long time in the future for now, but still we are very, very delighted to have you watching this evening, and of course to have your commitment already for the next season from this point. But this is the thing, Ed. I mean, we didn't expect the popularity of the championship to get this big, but it's just been amazing, hasn't it? I think we've had over 50 entries so far.
Yeah, and I have no idea how we're going to fit them all in for Season 3. If we do, we might need to have a look at different formats potentially, so we get plenty of time for drivers to come in. I know we did a few seasons way back in the day which utilised the heat format. I think we had plenty of entries in the Formula 3s on I believe it was Sim Racers World, where we sort of split the field in half. So that might be an avenue we'll have to look through. But of course, any ideas that we'll have will obviously be thought of far off into the future. The here and now is obviously focused entirely on Season 2, making sure it is as good as we can make it. And this lap will have to be as good as Stuart Clark can make it to go to the top of the timing sheets, which he will do, as he's the first driver to set a lap time. You would imagine. There it is, goes top, but is immediately bested by Ben Gregory in the boosted SimSport car. And then Callum Brandt, who is a real star, you have to say, a newcomer that has shaken the feathers of a few drivers after his amazing performance to start the season, his last lap overtake. Here we go, though, as well. Gary Tall, for Spontex CDM Esports, didn't have the best of races, but seems to be bouncing back absolutely superbly as he goes on to provisional pole.
You could say he's head and shoulders above the rest. Gary Tall on provisional pole for Spontex CDM Esports, and that is the thing I love to see. Rob Sutherland crossing the line here for RD Simsport 2. He just slots into 16th place. Andy Marston next up behind him. There's a couple of drivers that seem to have just been getting out of the way or just getting up to speed on their opening laps. Tusting goes 18th fastest. Ralph Mayer just crosses the line. He and his teammate Heinz Mayer, I believe they're brothers, both putting in whatever they can in the Mercedes, racing under the team name Toto's Lemmings for this season, which I love. Love the chrome effect on the side of Heinz's car and the pink highlights on it as well. Great looking race car, that Mercedes, and it seemed quite strong in certain places at Road Atlanta. I think the main takeaway that we got from that race was that the McLaren is the quickest car in the short run, but it kills its tyres in the long run, and I think a lot of the guys are sort of realising that more and more now, aren't they?
Yeah, a few of the drivers, though, have got wise to the little trick, and I kind of let the rabbit out of the hat touch last time out when we were on broadcast. Sadly, I forgot that drivers might want to watch the races back, and I did reveal a little bit of a trick that I had last season of changing the tyres mid-race, because it's done at the same time the fuel is done. I didn't realise that Simon wasn't quite aware of that. So now that he's found out that trick,
he's not turned
up. He's not turned up. But when he does turn up, watch out everybody else, because that could be certainly spicy. He was actually talking to me after the race a couple of days, and his pace actually after the pit stops was a little bit all over the place. It was on average a bit faster, but the consistency wasn't quite there compared to how he was doing in the race the other day. So we were going to have a look and see if that was something that the drivers will opt for, if they'd rather go for the consistency on the tyres. But I will think that the McLarens will most likely want to change their tyres. It does cause that instability which is already present in the McLaren. If you can get through those first couple of laps, you should be quicker over the course of a race in the second half.
Yeah, that's it. It's all about what you gain or lose and when, you know, what situation you're in, because we've seen it before with multiple cars in different races and classes all over the world in broadcasted motorsport, where you can have a strategy in mind. You can think, oh, this is how we're going to play the race out, but you'll never know where you'll be and when over the course of a race, who you're going to get stuck behind and what it's going to be like. It's so hard to calculate it. You see it all the time in Formula 1 as well. People will try and make a strategy work, and they'll get caught out by a bit of traffic for just a few laps, and that is it. It's amazing to see how much the top 10 is all changing at the moment. Callum Brandt fastest by 23 thousandths of a second over Gary Tall. Then it's Brian Crowles and Rob Sharp. Four different manufacturers in the top 5. John Barnes is 5th ahead of his teammate Mike Horder. That's Boosted Motorsport B and Boosted Sim Sport, that is. And then we have Christopher Smith, the fastest BMW for RD Sim Sport, in 7th. And it's Dan McCauley, Mark Johnson and Paul Gosling rounding out the field. I don't believe we had Mark Johnson. Oh, we did have Mark last time out. He just had a big kerfuffle at the start of the race, I believe, but he's in the lovely dark green Aston Martin Racing colours as part of Legends Racing. We need to keep our eye on Callum Brandt, though, because he has done a purple Sector 3 on this lap. Seems you can use a lot of the runoff out there. And he is now ragging this Mercedes down the back straight towards Sunset Bend. And, well, we know to keep an eye on Callum now. Potential for a race win. He's certainly one of the quickest guys in the series. He was beautiful to watch at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, you really have to attack Sunset Bend if you want to get any sort of time out for it, and you can see he's doing exactly that. Slows it down, hits that little bump, and then that's the sign to get right on the power, which he does. Extends all the way out, just shy of touching the grass, so he gets a nice run across the line. What will it be for Callum Brandt? Can he cement his place further up at the top? Yes, he can. Improves by 1/10 of a second to Gary Tall. So currently it is RD Simsport that lead the way from Spontex CDM Racing. Then we get to Track Velocity Racing. Don't quite improve. That's Brian Crowles behind the wheel. I believe he's might have been validated or been on an outlap, but now he can really put the hammer down, as can John Roberts.
Yeah, John's
some drivers there struggling, just pushing a bit too hard. I'm not sure who that was in the background. It looked like a Mercedes of some description. There we go, Fausto Pinto, just pushing a touch too hard into turn 1.
I love this livery, by the way. Again,
beautiful,
not the busiest in the world, but it's just so tidy, and especially on the white wheels as well, with the shiny spec map on it. That looks absolutely stunning. Rob Sharp goes 3rd fastest. Rob is an absolute star of this championship, isn't he? I really do love Rob. He's great to speak to as well, and he's so quick. He has gone 3rd for Orris Racing now, meaning that we have still those 4 manufacturers inside the top 5. But again, this is just how close it is, Ed. Anybody, anywhere in this field could be right up there. He's got Matthias Tem right behind him for Fury Simsport, who is definitely not on the pace at the moment. But that, to me, 12.5 seconds down, says that is not a full guns-out lap time, is it?
He's not been able to set a lap time. He's probably invalidated it a couple times too many through Le Mans curve right at the end of the lap before you get onto the back straight, the Ullman straight. Having a look as well to see where the McLaren of Lewis Ward will come, as he's had 2 purple sectors this lap. Will it be pole position for Lewis Ward? Yes, it is, but by the slimmest of margins, 0.04 of a second over Callum Brandt. And I am absolutely loving how close it is up at the front of the field. Oh my word, we should be in for a real treat of a race. Matthias Tem in behind as well. Rob Sharp could be getting a nice slipstream, but can't afford to get held too much as now we come up towards Tower Turn. Needs to go for that late apex. Runs slightly shy of the apex, which isn't going to help him in getting the power down all the way down this Blind Fortress straight. And now as we come towards the Le Mans section, to really attack it through here. Go to the right-hand side, you can dip your wheels, and that can hook you all the way around on the curb. He just misses it out. You can do it here, though, as well. You can hook the car through. Again, doesn't quite get it set up, but if you turn in nice and early, he doesn't quite hit the apex. He's just turning into a touch too late for some of these corners, because you can cut the inside of the corner, and it helps you in getting the power down nice and early, because it basically gives you a shallower line through that final bit, and you need to have a nice shallow line to set you up brilliantly on the run in towards Sunset. But there's a little bit of traffic coming through, and Matthias is going to get held up here. He can't afford any 0x contact or 1x's, because that will invalidate his lap time. What will it be when he gets the line? At least, hopefully for his sake, good enough for a top 5 place to challenge in the race. All of a sudden he goes pole.
Wow.
Where did that come from?
Wow, oh wow. Matthias Tem, even held up by traffic at the end there, goes faster than anybody else. I know his race number's not correct for this week either. It's showing up as number 22 this week, but it shouldn't be that. Some of the numbers for some reason just aren't clicking into place for us. But Matthias Tem, from the bottom to the top, you've got to absolutely love that. And, well, he's a teammate of yours, Ed, so I imagine you're a very happy boy now. It's good to have a car each near the front of the field, isn't it?
I mean, absolutely. But I was quite critical of him through the tower turn and the Le Mans section, which just shows there's still time to be found in that lap. And he knows it as well. He got a great amount of slipstream all the way down the Ullman straight, which was absolutely perfect for him.
Oh.
But all of a sudden now, Lewis Ward finds the time that Matthias couldn't. And that's 2/10 at the top. That is a real statement by the Apex Racing Academy driver.
That's gorgeous by Lewis Ward. Really top-level stuff, that is. Now, everyone will be moaning in the Discord saying, oh, the McLaren's too fast. But honestly, Lewis is such a good driver. He did a couple of rounds last season as well in the Aston Martin for Apex Racing Academy, and we saw just how quick he can be. So again, showing his talent right at the top.
If I can say something, Chaz, look on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see the manufacturers. Look at all the different manufacturers we have in the top 6. They can say that one car's more overpowered than the other. But when you see that, you've got to say our racing have done a pretty decent job when it comes to balanced performance.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, it's great to have that variation with all the drivers as well. You know, we've got so many different teams. There's no teammates other than RD Simsport, which is Callum Brandt and Christopher Smith, 3rd and 5th. They are the only team with more than one driver inside the top 10. Oh, no. The only other one is Apex Racing Academy. Now, Dan McCauley is in 10th position. He's in the number 41 Aston Martin. And, well, I must say that, again, that just shows how close this all is. We've got the top 10 separated by just over a second. And let's not forget, this is a lap that is just about, well, almost as long as Spa-Francorchamps around here. So 0.2 of a second really isn't a lot at all.
No, it is not at all. And when you see in the grand scheme of things how much slipstream there will be here at Sebring, there is going to be a lot of opportunity for close racing in the pack to stay, well, pretty much nose to tail for a lot of this evening. It is an hour race, 2 pit stops with the fuel tanks limited to 40%, which can bring in a few opportunities for strategy as well to come into the mix.
Oh, no.
With Ben Gregory, there's a little bit of a wide line, being taken a very wide line, not the optimal line by Dan McCauley. Doesn't hold up the 113 of Ben Gregory, that currently occupies 11th place. Lewis Ward will get across the line just in time to start another lap, and he goes faster on that one. No slipstream as well. This is looking very strong, isn't it, for Lewis Ward at this moment in time?
Very, very good indeed. It may only be a couple of hundredths, but still, it's better than not improving by anything. Amazing pace right now by Lewis Ward, and he's getting quicker and quicker on every lap. Here's his next challenger then. This is going to be Callum Brandt across the line for the final time in this session. Just kisses the grass on the left-hand side, might wash off a tiny bit of speed. Gets 2 green sectors near the end of the lap. Is that enough to move him up? It is not. So unfortunately, he will not go any better than 3rd place in this race. Here's the very matte Paul Goffin, after I forgot to update their spec map for him. Across the line for SRM Racing A, and he does not improve either. We've got Mike Horder just inside the top 10 in this gorgeous, very striking boosted Simsport Aston Martin, and he goes into the pits. Matthias Tem is going to be the next car that's right up there to cross the line. He's got 3 green sectors on this lap, and these are where he needs them though, isn't it, Ed? Because this is where he lost time before.
Yeah, we should go on board with him as we watch him through Sunset Bends. You can see exactly why it's called that the sun is setting right in the driver's eyes as they turn in. Some drivers like to turn in early and aim for the wall for their sort of point and hug it close. Matthias opting for a wide entry to get a late apex and power down early. But you can see the car is not responding. There's a little bit of oversteer kicking in, and he aborts the lap time. Practices his pit entry instead, which will be crucial, as they'll need to do it twice in the race, as we've already mentioned here. Now we go to Mark Johnson for Legends Racing, currently occupying 12th place with 2 personal bests in this qualifying lap time here, right at the very end. You might find yourself dropping up into the top 10. He goes for the early cut, and you can see some drivers opting for different lines, which might cause a little bit of kerfuffle in the race, but a little bit of spice is never amiss here. Leaves plenty of room there. Make sure he doesn't run too far off. Comes across the line. Does he improve on 12th position? No, he doesn't. That was where he will stay. At this moment in time, no one behind him seems to be on a lap time at all challenging.
No.
Now here come to the 2 drivers still to complete lap times. Callum Brandt and Christopher Smith.
Well, I think these 2 are both done, to be fair, because Callum was the first driver to cross the line and finish the session.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris has only just started his lap as well, to be fair. So both the RD SimSport drivers just using these moments for a little bit more practice, I guess, as the session comes to an end. But a very close qualifying session on the most part. But Lewis Ward really showed everybody how it was done there. But once again, Ed, Matthias Tem, coming into this championship, he was confident, as he told us last week at Road Atlanta, but he wasn't as confident as thinking he's going to put it on the front row in both of his first 2 races. That's amazing.
No, and as well, he admitted that he hadn't exactly put the most amount of practice into Road Atlanta, and it did show as his pace started to drop off a touch towards the end of the race, where he was, I think, just didn't quite have it with him. He was overtaken, of course, by Callum Brandt, who had a brilliant last lap overtake, wasn't it, against Lewis Ward.
Oh, yeah.
Lewis will, I think, be hungry to try, if he can, to seal the deal up at the front of the field. He was caught out there on the strategy, I believe, because he came out in traffic after an early pit stop.
He did, yeah, and that's just what it comes down to sometimes. These are long races. It's not just a sprint to the flag, and that's why it makes it oh so interesting for us to watch. Right then, let's get ourselves a grid, shall we? We're going to have a long formation lap here. So they're going to go all the way around Sebring before they get to the grid. So we've got plenty of time to discuss how this is all going to shape out. Lewis Ward gets 1 point in the championship because he got pole position, so that's all important as well. Matthias Tem, car 22 for this evening, P2. Callum Brandt is going to line up 3rd alongside Gary Tull for Spontex CDM Esports, only half a second covering the top 4. Christopher Smith lines up on row 3 alongside Rob Sharp, with Brian Crowles and John Barnes on row 4 for Boosted Motorsport B. Mike Horder is 9th, with Dan McCauley rounding out the top 10. And then we have Ben Gregory and Mark Johnson making up row 6. I can't wait for my frame rate to die when it gets all these cars in shot as this blimp cycles round in just a moment. Paul Gosling is 13th alongside John Roberts, 2 Boosted Motorsport drivers there. Then we have Paul Goffin in 15th place. Look for him coming up the order because Paul's very, very quick indeed in that McLaren. John Tusting in 16th place ahead of Stuart Clark in his BMW. Then we have Fausto Pinto in 18th. Rob Sutherland for RD SimSport 2 lines up alongside Philip Hopley, father of Andrew, for Waterside Gym E-Racing. He rounds out your top 20. Then we have Ralph Mayer and Kim Such in the bright green BMW on row 11. Heinz Mayer and Tom Weston make up row 12. And then the back row of the grid, cars 99 and 111, SRM Racing Team B and A, Ryan Penny and Andrew Marston. So when you look at that list on the left-hand side there, Ed, I mean, it seems like a very jumbled up list to me because anybody in that, top 12, no disrespect to Paul Gosling, I've just not watched him race that much, but anyone in that top 12 could win this race, couldn't he?
Oh, absolutely. It all comes down to just the consistency. And I have to say, I think Lewis Ward, the pace he showed in qualifying to set that lap time without any slipstream, he has to be the favourite. But of course, you can't rule out Matthias Tem, who performed so brilliantly last time out with a bit more practice under his belt. You can't help but wonder what he might be able to do here tonight. Gary Tull, ever the veteran, and I think it's fair to say he's got a bit of a wise head about how to approach things here tonight as well. So he's certainly in the mix, as will Rob Sharp be. Callum Brandt has that little bit of excitement about him being the newcomer that impressed so much tonight, but I don't know if that might be a bit too much of a weight on his shoulders coming into tonight. I don't know how you'd feel as a driver with a bit of expectation on you in a situation such as this.
No one's ever got any expectations on me, Ed. Other than people want me to swear live on air. They think that because I swear so much live off air. No, live off air? No. Off air I swear like a trooper, but on air I've only ever really made a sort of swear word once. And people, honestly, I actually had a friend the other day tune in and say, I say tune in because I know Will Vincent hates it. Somebody watched and literally said, I'm only here because I want to be there when you inevitably swear live on air. And it hasn't happened. But other than that, I've never had any expectation over my shoulders. Oh, you did, yes, at Snetterton in British F4. Yeah, I remember the F4. Remember. Yeah, I've not forgotten that.
I did not do the mistake that Pete Mackay did, which I don't think I could
hilarious.
ever live down.
One of the funniest interviews ever. Absolutely amazing interview, that. And it was just one of them. It was a full, honest sort of slip of emotion, wasn't it? He just told us exactly how it is, and well, it was very, very funny all the same. What's not going to be funny though is this race. I think we're in for a real serious treat here, you know, with this one, mate, because it's going to start getting dark here at Sebring. The drivers are going to have to concentrate so hard with the changing light conditions, the new bump map on this circuit. Most people seem to think that means that the texture is actually bumpy, but basically what it does is it just tells the light where the bumps are, so you get more tasty shadows and better looking effects all over the track. You can see it there, the way certain bits of it reflect, so it doesn't drive any differently. But the thing is, your eyes will still deceive you, won't they? Because they'll say there's a bump there, and there might not actually be, or it might not be as exaggerated as it seems. So they're going to be very focused on these lighting conditions, aren't they?
Yeah, but the one thing, the only lights that Lewis Ward will be focused on is when they go green and when he can get underway. You can see the safety car is coming in this lap. So in behind, Lewis Ward will probably drop back just a touch on this straight and give himself ample time to get up and running before they go green. We'll see the pit entry is right at the end of Sunset Bend.
Almost putting the safety car under pressure.
Yeah, he's getting right up the back end of it.
He is indeed. There is your whole field. It's a beautiful looking field as well.
Look at that.
You can see all of the Sim Racing Magazine and Chaz Draycott Media windscreen banners on the cars as well. Really brings it together when you see that as well. I love when a series has a very visible decal layer like that, as we call it here on iRacing, where you can tell they're all part of the same series.
The branding.
Yes. Yeah. Always looks good. I always try and do my best with it, and I think we've got a very easy to spot decal layer for this championship. Anyway, we're about to get racing here at Sebring as round 2 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge gets underway. Lewis Ward will build up the revs, the lights go on, and he's got his foot down now and we're away. And there's going to be a number of drivers, i.e. Brian Crowell's in the middle there, that might get a telling off. Gary Tall actually jumped some cars at the start of the race last time at Road Atlanta, and everyone goes 3 wide into the middle before the start. The frame rate absolutely dies a death. You can hear some cars bottoming out. Gary Tall's been hung out to dry around the outside. There's maybe a couple of cars running wide.
Yep. He's just about come on safely. Sorry there, Chaz.
All good, mate, all good. Matthias Tem does indeed run wide. A little bit of contact further down the order, a bit of a check up in the middle of the field, but it seems like everybody's got through okay. Brian Crowell has made up a bunch of places already, though, and he's got Callum Brandt right behind him. However, I feel that Brian may have just jumped the start a little bit there and overtaken people before the line. See how it goes, though, because Callum Brandt already on the attack down the inside. You know that he's not going to be hanging about at all. He's going to try and make as many moves as he can in these opening stages, so it's not all a case of clawing it back later. But even if we look on board with Philip Hopley a bit further down the order, you can see very lively start, but everybody has made it round safely.
Yeah, just about, but of course they're still ever so close together, so I wouldn't say that this lap is completely clean. It is brilliant, isn't it? We saw it last time out. Oh, never mind. Oh, Philip Hopley almost living up to the curse of the commentator that I tend to bring on to drivers. Oh, dearie me. Matthias Tem and Gary Tall coming together at Tower Bend, and that sees Gary Tall off into the grass and has to wait for the whole world to go by. That's the problem with the lap 1 incident, is that there's so long to go. And Kim Such, well, almost got taken out, seemed to be safe, and then, well, we see him off the circuit coming back onto the road, but that was, well, all of a sudden, we said it was clean, and then it all came together. And see, it's tricky because that corner does invite that sort of a move. And this was Kim Such, I think, just having the moment all by themselves.
Yeah.
That's the cold tyres spinning up, unfortunately. Into the wall, but it didn't seem to be at any sort of speed, so I think that might have gotten away. A-okay. We come to Paul Gosling.
Yeah, I think
that was the 41 of Dan McCauley.
Something's gone on here. I think he might have just clipped the curb or done something. Someone's lost a few places.
Dan McCauley, I think, might have had a slowdown.
Sorry, it was Christopher Smith. Christopher Smith had been off all on his own. We'll go back and have a look at this. It's going around Le Mans. The back end's already gone, and he's just going to overcorrect it. Oh, he's going to hit the wall as well. Oh, God. Wow, that was a big hit. Didn't look from the initial damage like he got anywhere near that big a hit, did it?
No, it is massive, but I think I can't remember if there's a wall there in real life. I don't think there is. I think it just goes out into a field, but of course, in iRacing, they can't render everything off into the distance forever. They would basically have a void that you'd fall off into, so they have to put a wall there essentially to stop cars from disappearing into the floor.
Now this is the battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th here, because Lewis Ward has checked out. He's 3 seconds clear of Callum Brandt, who is ahead now of Brian Crowles, Mike Horder and then Ben Gregory. Matthias Tem is another 2 and a bit seconds behind this. And this is the 4-car train for 2nd. Now you're going to be thinking at this point that they're going to try and hold on to these positions. There's another battle going on here. John Roberts holding off Mark Johnson, Paul Goffin and Dan McCauley in the thick of this as well. There's a number of drivers that have lost quite a lot of places on this opening lap, to be fair, Ed. So there's going to be a lot more shuffling over the sort of first quarter of this race, I reckon, as people try and make their way further back up. But look at this train of cars. It's absolutely endless.
It's just carrying on. It's ever so close. I mean, we expect it at Sebring because of, obviously, the slipstream. It does allow cars to close up to one another and stay close for long periods of time. The great equaliser is the slipstream here. Let's go on board with Ryan Penny. I absolutely love this shot. Look at the sun coming through and look at the rear end of that RD Sim Sport car. Ever closer in Ryan Penny's view. They go out to sunset, look close enough to make a move, but they'll know that the opportunity will certainly present itself potentially sooner than you may expect. Looking up the order as well, you can see Matthias Tem did lose 4 positions off of that start, and I think that confusion towards turn 1 did benefit Lewis Ward greatly, with Matthias Tem running off the road and having to rejoin.
Yeah.
Costing Brian Crowles a lot of time. I'd say Brian Crowles' start was absolutely sublime. I wonder if the race does die down, if it ever does.
Oh, we'll have a look
on
now.
board for his start, because it was amazing.
I was lining it up while you were saying it. I think he's just got it right, and he's not overtaken anybody before the line.
You can see the green flag.
Oh,
that is absolutely amazing. That is perfectly done. A textbook start, and you can see he's actually in 2nd place as they break for turn 1, but he's so shallow on the inside that he can't afford to get on the power early. Matthias Tem just runs out of road on cold tyres, and then he's side by side up ahead. Callum Brandt and Brian Crowles going hammer and tongs. Crowles has the corner. I think then might lose out in towards the hairpin.
Yeah, it was Callum Brandt down the inside on the hairpin at the bottom of this run here, down at what's just known as hairpin turn. And yeah, Callum just moves over to the right hand side and gets the job done there. So
and that gives Lewis Ward all of that time, doesn't it? Because of that move up the inside.
Yeah, it's very compromising if you do make a move there, unfortunately. Callum is starting to push away a little bit from Brian, and then Mike Horder's in there as well. He's been impressive so far in the Aston Martin. He's got his teammate Ben Gregory behind as well. 2 boosted SimSport cars inside the top 5. We've got both the boosted Motorsport B drivers together as well. John Barnes and Paul Gosling in the Aston Martin and BMW. I say together though, they're about 1.1 seconds apart. Dan McCauley's tucked all over the back. He's tucked up right up behind Paul Goffin's very pretty Sim Racing Magazine racing team McLaren. Dan wants to get a move on though, because he knows that Stuart Clark is right there with him in the BMW as well. But typically we're going to have so many battles on track tonight, Ed, that we don't know where to look, but we need to sort of prioritise the ones near the front, no offence to anyone further down, because these could be the ones that make big changes to the championship.
Yeah, certainly, and I'm sure people wouldn't begrudge it. We will have so much action to look through, so there won't really be a dull moment. I'm fairly happy to say that, because we haven't had it last time out. I don't think we've had it in any race that you've covered in the GT4 challenge. Being as a driver, you don't realise how much actually goes on in these races. There's always something happening.
Yeah, you were saying that last time, weren't you?
Yeah, we were. We said it as well after broadcast. Maybe we were just sitting back and just taking stock of everything that happened after all of the adrenaline started to slowly seep out of our bodies. Look back and reflect and thought, oh my word, I didn't realise so much happens, but it does, and it's absolutely brilliant. Mike Horder now right in behind Brian is going to look to maybe go all the way around the outside in towards the hairpin. Be very tricky. He needs to make a dark move up to the inside if he's going to go for it right now, but decides it's not worth it if he does go for it. Him and Brian will lose touch to Callum, and I think he's having to roll the dice and just hope that Brian will be able to close up and keep that slipstream, stay up in with a chance of second place. Side by side though, between Dan McCauley on the inside and Paul Goffin all the way around the outside. Should have the inside line in towards Cunningham Corner to get onto the brakes. It's going to be difficult, you would imagine, for the McLaren, but late on the brakes, yeah, unfortunately, it's not going to work out for Paul.
Tidy stuff by Dan. Gets a nice run out the hairpin. Paul gave him plenty of room as well. Dan's just clawing back places at the moment that he lost. He started 10th on the grid and he's dropped down to 12th in all the sort of madness that went on early on. He's going to be hoping now that Stuart Clark takes up all of Paul Goffin's time and forces him to defend his position. A little bit closer further down as well. We've got Rob Sutherland with John Tusting between himself and Ryan Penny. Got the two Aston Martins just ahead of the Mercedes, and just ahead of them is Fausto Pinto in another Mercedes as well. So with this livery on, John will be shouting that there's a dirty Jerry at 12 o'clock, old chap. And although I'm not saying that Fausto's German, he's Portuguese, but of course the car is German. We've got Philip Hockley off the road though, I'm afraid. You can't go swimming out there in the Waterside Gym e-racing machine. But back on the circuit he goes, no harm done. And back to the front once more, Ed, because Brian Crowles is again under pressure from Mike Horder. But again, the gap gets bigger, excuse me, to Callum Brandt.
Very easy to stumble over your words when we've got so much going on, Chaz. I've done it more than a few times in the previous round. I'm sure I'll do it plenty of times here today as well, because there is never a dull moment. We have to keep talking. We are always busy here, and Brian Krause is certainly busy trying to defend from Mike Horder, who is all over the back of him, and you would have to imagine it will be a case of when, not if, the pressure will prove a little bit too much and Mike Horder can make that move. Look at that beautiful boosted car now right up the rear end and going all the way around the outside. It's a brave move in towards the hairpin, but it can help you on the corner exit just because of that little kink coming out. Instead opts for a late apex, and look at the drive out of the corner. That Aston Martin just goes, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's got a great run as Mike Horder, but he's going to have to work hard, although Brian's going to give him the inside line here for Cunningham. You can see the Mercedes creeping behind the timing tower on the left. Brian tries to shut the door. It was very, very close. Nip and tuck. We saw Brian unfortunately close the door at Road Atlanta as well, so I'd be a little bit worried for Mike's sake that he might end up with the Mercedes across the front of him if Brian wants to repeat that again. We've got moves going on further down. Mark Johnson and Dan McCauley now doing battle. The Apex Racing Academy driver trying to now get up into 11th place. We saw him get up to 10th just a lap ago. Sorry, into 12th a lap ago, and now he's moved up again. Lovely job by Dan, continuing to move forward. All of a sudden, Stuart Clark and the McLaren of Paul Goffin are involved in this as well. This is fantastic stuff as ever. Look at that. Goffin backs out. Clark goes around the outside. He saw that coming. Thank you very much. As we say in the Rocket League world, what a read.
That is, he could completely tell what was going on now, and he needs to get a good exit here because that BMW is so strong, accelerating in the top end around this bend coming up towards sunset. He's going to be so difficult to keep up with, and you can already tell that Rusty Roast's car closing up to the rear end of Mark Johnson. He's going to be safe for a little while on Mark, but you can imagine that BMW will be going like stink incredibly quickly up behind him. It's just kept safe, I think, by the 41 that's giving him some slipstream to keep him at bay at the moment. Lewis Ward, meanwhile, without slipstream, has just set the fastest lap of the race so far, extending his advantage to almost 5 seconds. Said he was going to be a favourite because of his qualifying pace, but I wasn't expecting him to get this big of a gap so early on.
Well, let's not forget, though, the man that we just looked at a moment ago, number 27, Callum Brandt. He was so consistent and so fast at Road Atlanta that he could probably be the main spoiler in this here, because obviously Lewis is going to be very fast in these early stages, but he's in the McLaren, and we know that it chews up its front tyres a lot quicker. Even though he might basically be able to get fresh tyres and sort of have to deal with a bit of instability in the later part of the race, I reckon Callum's got the consistency to go chasing after him and beat him on the road, but we'll have to wait and see. Matthias Tem, unfortunately, has gone straight on at the hairpin, and after starting second on the grid, he's not had the easiest of races so far. Ed, let's have a look what happened.
No, He's dropped back several places, was in 6th place, now finds himself down in 13th, and I think he just outbrakes himself and does the smart thing. He basically sacrifices himself because he realises he's going right into the back end of Ben Gregory. You have to say that is a very good bit of sportsmanship because he knows brakes far too late. He goes, oh God, I'm going to come into the back of him. Look how close that was. If you are Ben Gregory, you might need a new pair of race overalls because there might be a few stains there.
Absolutely, it was very close indeed, but still, like you say, really good sportsmanship that from Matthias Tem. That quick thinking is exactly what you need in sim racing, and it's lovely to see that we've got that in this championship. Look at the light in here now, Ed, as we go on to the back straight down towards Sunset Bend. Certainly is sunset right now. That sun is going down very quickly, of course. The winter sunshine here, we're using the real in-sim date here of December the 13th, 2022, so there's not much sunshine, and the sun is due to set, or be officially set, by about the sort of 40-minute mark of the race. So the last 20 minutes is going to get mighty dark mighty quickly.
Yeah, and that should be excellent because the lighting here at Sebring is superb. Obviously, it holds the 12 hours of Sebring in our racing, so we get plenty of nighttime running. Oh, actually, is it 24 hours of Sebring? I can't remember now, actually, how long they run it for on iRacing. It's Crystal Smith coming in for a very early pit stop, and that should be enough to give him just one more pit stop until the end, but this is about as early as you can go.
I'd say that's for damage, you know, because let's not forget he had that big old hit into the wall, didn't he, earlier? So maybe he's just thinking, right, I'm not up to speed here with what's going on. We've got John Roberts off the road. He's going down the order. We're about to find him, I imagine, in just a moment as we come around the left-hander. There he is on the right. John Roberts off and on the grass, rejoining the circuit. But
He's doing so well as well. He was way up in the top 10.
Oh, he's just clipped the grass. It's
so easily done.
It's a very realistic accident, though, and this is the thing with iRacing, and that shows just how realistic it is. You know, it's not just everyone clattering into each other all the time. You know, you've got drivers that just have an innocent spin or a moment. This is not an innocent moment, though. John Tusting and Ryan Penny getting very friendly and very intimate with one another right now. The Aston Martin on the back of the Mercedes. Boosted Motorsport taking on SRM Racing Team B. They've got Rob Sutherland in another Aston Martin just ahead, then Fausto Pinto. This is actually the quartet that we caught up with earlier, isn't it, actually, Ed? They've sort of stuck together. I'll say that, though, as John gets a terrible run out of Cunningham, and the three in front of him just disappear up the road.
Yeah, that Mercedes, Ryan Penny, really got on the brakes. You wouldn't expect it from the big, beefy Merc, the way it looks from the outside, but it is actually surprisingly good at getting stopped very quickly and allows him to close down into the corners behind Ryan Penny. Not behind Ryan Penny, behind Rob Sullivan. We are following Ryan Penny at the moment. Lovely SRM livery on that. Now following through, the train comes together and there's a little bit of commotion which might open the door perfectly for the 99 to have a go at Rob Sutherland. Ryan's had a great race, but not like that. Oh dear, oh me.
Well, when you said have a go at him.
Yeah. Oh, and it is just the checkup through Sunset. You can see that might have happened because of how out of shape he was at the early part of that sector. Waits to let the car go through ahead of him.
They've only just got going.
By Ryan Penny. But it cost them so much time, so many places as well.
Did indeed. This is Ralph Mayer in the 990 car down the inside of Philip Hopley, who's running a very wide line to make sure he gives Ralph all the room in the world, and then the two of them eventually go back into single file to now go down the start-finish straight once again. Lewis Ward continues to lead the race then at the quarter stage. I don't know how you'd say, quarter way mark, I don't know. We're a quarter of the way through. Brian Crowell's still holding on to third place ahead of Mike Horder and Ben Gregory, boosted SimSport teammates. Rob Sharp now in the picture with this as well, in the highest placed Porsche in the pack, the only Porsche in the whole race, actually. I hadn't realised that until now.
Yeah.
He's the only Porsche in the race. What? How the tables turn, right?
How on earth has that happened? From the Porsche-dominated Season 1, all of a sudden it's a wild mix of many different manufacturers, plenty of Astons, plenty of Mercedes,
all Germans,
plenty of McLarens. But sadly, one lonely Porsche, but he's representing it very nicely, isn't he? You can see closing in behind Ben Gregory. At what stage do you imagine the boosted drivers might swap positions? Because Mike Horder has been struggling to get through up into third place. Would you reckon Ben Gregory might say, let's invert them around and see if I can have a go at him now?
Yeah, potentially, but I think they'd be worried that Rob Sharp is so close now that it'll affect them something in the long run. It'll affect them more in the long run, basically. So I'm not sure right now. I think we'll have to wait and see what they do. I mean, maybe they're doing a bit of fuel saving, maybe just trying to go a bit longer on this first stop. We'll have to wait and see. Just a bit further back, though, Mydas Tem is trying to see around the BMW of Stuart Clark, and I find it great, Ed, that the biggest, bulkiest car here is the quickest in a straight line. It shows you the massive power of that BMW M4, and I imagine very soon we'll have the new BMW M4 coming to iRacing. The new GT4 announced quite a while ago now, but it has started becoming an entrant in many a GT championship around the world I've seen announced for next year. And well, as soon as we look away from it, Mike Horder has finally got past Brian Crowles.
Oh my word, it all happens every time we look away. And now we're going to see Ben Gregory go for the move all the way around to the outside. Can he get it to work? Yes, just about. They came about a hair's width away from contact, but they left each other just enough room. Excellent racing. Here's a replay of the move Mike Horder made, and it was just a mistake. The pressure proved too much for Brian Crowles. After that amazing start, he's just beginning to drop back, and I think Rob Sharp will fancy a little bit of a go now at the rear end of that Mercedes.
It's because Brian's mainly a NASCAR and oval boy. He's an American Belgian, is Brian Krause. I always tell him that. He's maybe just not so adept at turning right, and that's why Sunset Ben caught him out. But still, you're absolutely right. He's done an amazing job so far. He's not quite had the mishap that he had at Road Atlanta, though. He's not had a full spin. He's just lost that one position at this point of the race. So hopefully for him it stays tidy, because even in that first race he finished, well, he was down in 13th, but he got 8 championship points for that. This is Mydas Tem trying to get more championship points from Mark Johnson, and he does so in the Aston Martin. Yeah, that was tasty, wasn't it?
Really of this lap as well, I think, actually, because he has gotten ahead of the Rusty's Rose Racing car of Stuart Clark that we saw him behind just at the end of the last lap. So this is how he did it in towards turn 1. Lovely slipstream. When you're that close behind a BMW, even though it has that straight line advantage, the slipstream is just far too strong. And I think Stuart Clark realises Mydas is a little bit quicker, fancies to have that position, and decides just to give up that position. Not worth fighting, you would lose too much time. And already, Mydas is closed in to another BMW.
Yeah, Paul Gosling in the boosted Motorsport B machine. He's very under the radar at the moment, considering, and I think the Dazzle camo's working for Paul Gosling. But I was just going to say, Ed, typically the position change happened as soon as we were looking elsewhere, basically. The headlights now come on here at Sebring as it officially starts to get dark, so everyone's headlights are going to be a lot brighter from this point onwards, and you'll start to see them affecting the road around them, which is going to be lovely. It's nice to see that
Crowles
change happened. Oh, Crowles already in. Yeah, that's interesting to see. So he's coming out of the traffic. He's thinking, I don't want to get battling everybody. Let's just get this car sorted and get back out of the pits. Normally they're stationary for about 10 to 15 seconds, we've seen before. So Brian will keep an eye on, and I'll let you know the time of how long he's in the pits. Christopher Smith, the only car that's pitted so far for a normal scheduled stop, was stationary for 15.1 seconds. Brian's been stationary for 19, 20... 21, a lot more than that, so I'm not sure if he's got some sort of penalty to serve. Oh no, he does get going just as I click away. 24.2 seconds for him. Look at the glow here on some of these cars now. This is going to start looking very tasty, especially with the new updated spec maps here on iRacing, which now, rather than just being metallic, has a sort of clear coat over it, so you get the metallic effect, but it's still glossy as well. And I must admit, while it was a bit convoluted to get it all to work and for everyone to adapt their liveries to it, it looks absolutely corking, doesn't it?
Sublime. You can see as well from that onboard shot, it's not just one flat. You can see a little bit of subtlety to the colour as well. There's a few sections of the chrome bits that aren't quite as shiny as the other bits, but it's all done brilliant. You can see it there, can't you, Chaz? Just not just like a flat bit of shine, especially if you look at the, I don't know what you'd call it, like the sort of
just the pillar, basically, isn't it?
Yeah, the jutty out bit of the side does shine very nicely indeed. Yet to Mydas Tem, right in behind now, as close as he has been all race to this 55 car.
Really is Dazzle camo though, isn't it?
This is a brilliant exit. This is what he needed to do in that qualifying lap. Judges it perfectly as the 111 Andrew Marston gets out of the way. Gets himself a lap down on these cars, and Mydas Tem in towards Sunset Bend as the sun, well, is pretty much set. The headlights have come on.
Oh, no.
Excellent little move up the inside. And look at that opportunism by Mark Johnson. Oh, we love a cheeky move like that. Absolutely brilliant.
And now they all go into the pits. Mydas Simulations, Paul Gosling. But Mark Johnson, well, he absolutely sent that down the inside, didn't he? Sorry, that's Dan McCauley going to the pits. Absolute send. Look how far back Mark Johnson was. He says, you know, stuff here. To be honest,
boy.
I think he outbroke himself, if I'm honest with you, Ed. But he turned it into an overtaking manoeuvre all the same and got on with it. And then Gosling goes, yeah, I don't want to fight that. I'm going to jump into the pits. We've got a number of cars in the pits. Matthias Tem, John Barnes, Dan McCauley, Paul Gosling, Paul Goffin, John Tusting, Fausto Pinto, Gary Toll, Philip Hopley and Ralph Mayer. Gary Toll there, of course, pitting way further down the pit lane. Looks like one of the Aston Martins, which is John Barnes, has taken tyres. But Gary Toll...
Well, they're all on the jacks. Oh, what have I done, Chaz?
Yeah,
What have I done? I've let it slip. This is why I can't come back. They all know my secret. I'll be right down the order. I'll be finishing down in like 20th now they found it all out.
I think it's good, though. It's good for him to know at the end of the day. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how it affects the races and how people manage to get on with the race in the long run now with the different tyre strategies. Now, that's Christopher Smith, who's just come out of the pits on lap 6 due to his damage, just in front of Dan McCauley now in the Aston Martin. You can see the people that have changed tyres and who haven't, though, usually. Although I'd say, no, about 23 to 25 seconds all the pit stops, except Christopher Smith's, who was about 15 seconds. So, interesting. Very interesting indeed.
Christopher Smith was the earliest to come in, so he had more fuel in the tank already.
Yeah, true. Very true.
So he basically did his short stop first, and then we'll have his longer stop later in the race. Meanwhile, Lewis Ward carries on for maybe one more lap. Now you can see he's going very tight in towards that final bend. He comes into the pits. So this will be his first of 2 stops as Callum Brandt comes in behind him. Callum actually seems to have closed up just a touch on that in lap. So maybe he's got the art of the pit entry nailed down. See what the gap is when they come out of the pit lane. Now, if basically drivers haven't pitted, this is probably the time to come in.
Whoa.
Get them to nose to tail.
See when they all
Hopefully
go
the
out.
cars ghost in the pit lane, because otherwise there would be a huge kerfuffle of so many cars in pit road at once.
I don't think they do in those scenarios, you know. I think they do when you get to your box, but I don't think in those situations they do. And look at that, straight up on the jacks goes Stuart Clark, and out comes Callum Brandt ahead of Lewis Ward. 19.9 seconds in the box for Callum Brandt, and he now, well, will lead this race. Lewis Ward's going to come out in second position. Where is Brian Crowell's going to be?
All 4 tyres.
Yeah, potentially.
Maybe 1 tyre too much.
Yeah, that's actually, that's the point I failed to make earlier on. It's not all 4 tyres, is it, that take the same time as the fuel? It's if you just get 2 tyres.
Yeah, it would take the same amount if it was a full tank of fuel, but of course we limit them to 40%. So, that of course means they only really have enough time for their big fuel stop to take tyres as well. Around here, with the track temperature cooling down as it's a later race, it doesn't necessarily have as big of an effect as the earlier race that we saw at Road Atlanta, where the track temperatures are a little bit hotter. You can see there, lacking so screen. I was going to say every driver and all drivers have taken their pit stops, but they will have one more to do before the very end. And there's the timing of the pit stop. We've done this absolutely brilliantly. Chaz thought through a very quick pit stop for Callum Brandt. He's actually short fueled it compared to everybody else. In fact, actually, yeah, he definitely has, because all other drivers, it wasn't that Lewis Wood did a long stop, it's more that Callum Brandt did a short one.
Yes, indeed. He certainly has. 19.8 seconds. Everyone else doing 24s, 25s. In fact, Lewis Ward was in the pits for an exact second longer than Mike Horder, who's now in 3rd position. We were looking at Rob Sharp not long ago, and he was in a close bit of fight in with Brian Crowell's. We've also had Dan McCauley behind Christopher Smith in the Mercedes as well before. Ben Gregory's currently in 4th position. And I must say, it's been great by both the boosted SimSport drivers in the Astons so far. Mike Horder's gained 6 places, Ben Gregory's gained 7. So a strong early performance in this race in the first half of said race for these guys. And now down the back straight, Rob Sharp, the solo Porsche in the field. I can't quite believe I'm saying that, considering a lot of these drivers come from the Porsche Club of Great Britain as well. He is trying everything to get past these Aston Martins. There's a weird sort of shadow effect on certain parts of this circuit that I've noticed. I'm not sure whether iRacing have dealt with yet, but some of the shadows here seem very exaggerated from a long distance. In places like that there as well. These boys are very close together. And now we've got Ben Gregory on the inside. Yeah, I'm getting scared here. I'm grabbing my desk. As Rob turns in a little bit on Ben. I think Ben was a little bit late turning in, to be honest with you, and threw down the inside of both of them. Brian Crowell says thanks very much, boys, but doesn't quite get past Ben Gregory. Fantastic performance so far by all these guys. Great entertainment to watch. And as I was just about to point out, as James Holman has mentioned in the chat, Christopher Smith up into 8th position in the BMW. I mentioned before that he was in a Mercedes. He's certainly not. But he's got John Barnes right in front of him now. And after that earlier incident, he may have had a shorter stop by about 8 seconds compared to everyone else had, but he certainly made it work for now.
Yeah, and as well, another thing to think about is not just the drivers' standings, but also the team standings. This is going to be great for Boosted SimSport, who currently find themselves 3rd after the first round of racing. They're currently 3rd and 4th. RD SimSport, who are currently top, currently winning this race in the form of Callum Brandt, and as well, this man, Christopher Smith, in the top 10. Will be a nice haul of points for them as well. However, the team that's 2nd in the team championships will be struggling, and that is, unfortunately, Spontex CDM Esports, the only driver out on the circuit for them. Gary Tall, who's down in 16th place after a terrible start, down 12 places from the beginning of the race.
Yeah, that spin earlier on really cost him everything, didn't it? But it just goes to show how difficult it can be. And the thing is, even though it's a long race...
Contact with Matthias 10, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah, it was. Even Matthias hasn't fully recovered. He's had a great recovery drive back through, but he's up to 10th place, and that's still 8 places down on where he started. Let's not forget, he qualified on pole, went off at turn 1, and then when he was in the mid-pack, he got into a little bit of trouble with Gary Tall. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's not gone Matthias' way so far. We've got Jason and Ivan Bauman's in the chat, by the way, who are teammates of Brian Crowell's at Track Velocity Racing, saying, stop fooling around, Brian, show these guys what racing is. And to be honest, Brian's already, even though we're halfway through round 2 of the championship, Brian's definitely been one of the most entertaining drivers out there, hasn't he?
He certainly has shown us what racing is, let's put it like that, because he's given us some excellent stuff in the first round when he wasn't obviously having those mistakes in spinning, but now he needs to try ever so hard to get ahead of Ben Gregory, who we know from all of the series that we've commentated on, Chaz, is a very good driver. We've seen him in the TCRs. He's been really brilliant there as a defensive driver, as well as knowing when to attack. He's been smart with how he does things. He's been quite smart about things here tonight. Let's look at that, the excellent drive out of the corner from Christopher Smith, who takes advantage of a rather compromised John Barnes. Stan McCauley struggles as well to get out of the corner. Time that beautifully, and Christopher Smith finds himself now up into 7th position. Already, though, down 2 places from the start, but say it's not doing too badly, all things considered.
Absolutely not.
Look at this run from Dan McCauley. Got a nice late apex, but kind of struggled midway through the corner to put the power down. John Barnes should be safe, but when you see the pace of Dan McCauley, you can imagine he's going to be closing up. But I think Dan as well was rather let down by his qualifying performance, because his race pace so far has been really strong.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think Dan will be a little bit more on edge this evening as well, knowing that he needs to score big championship points to get right back up there. He had a big crash at the end of the last race with Jacob Money, who unfortunately isn't here tonight either. Jacob's another big hitter in the championship that's very entertaining and very fast. James Holman's saying he wonders if Callum was full fuel saving. He gained 4 seconds on the in-lap and shorter fuel, but I don't think he would have been fuel saving at that point, to be fair, buddy. I think that he's just trying to make this the shorter stint, get into the mind of Lewis Ward and get ahead of him on track for now, because with the speed that he was having to do before Ed, I don't think there was any way that Callum could have fuel saved, really. Although, then again, at Road Atlanta, he said he was fuel saving, and he was as quick as Simon Povey. So,
yeah,
I could eat my words here, James, sorry.
We'll see, but Callum was so fast, wasn't he, at the very end of that race for Atlanta, like you were alluding to. And the out-track position at the moment, Lewis Ward will start to wonder how this race will pan out in those final 10 minutes after that last pit stop. At the moment, it does seem to be in his favour. He's lapping quicker than the RD SimSport driver that leads the race. But it's all these little things that can eat into a driver's mental state as Rob Sharp goes wide off the circuit but doesn't lose a position. Let's have a look at it into turn 1. He actually gains the move around the outside, but just a bit too much pace. Can't slow it down in time. gives it all the way back to Brian Krause. And you can see that Christopher Smith was a little bit nervous about that rejoin, but it didn't end up affecting him too much. But he left plenty of room on that right-hand side circuit just in case something happened.
We've got 4 different manufacturers in these 4 cars now. As well, he's nervous about that as well, to be honest, I imagine, is Christopher. So has to just be careful not to catch the back of Rob Sharp there. But Rob went a little bit deep on the brakes, had to slam on, and the car suddenly wanted to go around on him on the exit of the corner as it managed the weight transfer. Let's not forget the Porsche is a mid-engined car. It's one of the only mid-engined GT4 cars that we've got. The only one in this battle as well, because all the others, the Mercedes, the Aston Martin and the BMW, all front-engined, big, burly machines. Of course, the McLaren is the other mid-engined GT4 machine that we have in the field. We've got Gary Tall off the road and out of the race by the look of it. He's disappeared very suddenly. He was saying that he's had a VR issue recently. I'm not sure whether he's had the same again. He's had it blinking in and out, and look, yeah, something's gone. He couldn't see, and he's quit instantly. Oh no, Gary's gone, and that is devastating.
Like a hardware failure.
Yeah, that's it. I can't remember which broadcast it was. I mentioned this on recently, but people were saying, someone argued with me the fact that, you know, people only blink in and out when it's a connection issue, but if your hardware is having a problem and it can't send a signal out of what it's doing to the sim, like if your monitor goes off or something, or you know, if your graphics card freezes up, if your VR headset dies, whatever happens, you will still see the car blink in and out because it's obviously not receiving anything because the hardware isn't sending a signal to us. So it seems like that's what's happened there to Gary, doesn't it?
I hang about here, Chaz. I've just noticed something up at the front of the field, and I think you might notice it as well if we look at their recent lap times. Callum Brandt and that Mercedes is getting quicker than Lewis Ward and his McLaren. We've seen it last time out. We weren't sure if we'd see the exact same thing here at Sebring. It's a very different track to Road Atlanta, but that car seems to be coming into its own right now, and this could be very big if the tide begins to turn away from Lewis Ward, what he might do to respond.
Absolutely, a 209.42 from Callum Brandt last time round. Lewis Ward and the McLaren did a 209.49, and it's a purple Sector 1 from Callum Brandt this time round as well. So Callum is not hanging about here. These two are now starting to really show what they can do, and I'm excited to see how this pans out in the race. We've flown by the halfway mark already, Ed. I can't believe that it's gone by that quickly, to be honest with you. Just over 25 minutes of this race left to go here at Sebring. 1 pit stop remaining as well for everybody, it must be said. And it's going to get darker and darker. You can see here the conditions slowly dimming bit by bit, and the lights are becoming more effective on the front of the cars. You can see the gorgeous cat's eyes around this track as well at Sebring. One of my favourite things about this place is that the cat's eyes all glow around the track. So it's a beautiful place to race at night, and these drivers are going to enjoy that as well. We should get about a few minutes of darkness right at the end of the race. Just adds a little bit more spice into the mix.
Yeah, lovely, lovely twilight that we get here in iRacing. You can see Brian Krause cuts the inside of Le Mans perfectly. That's about as much as you can get away without picking up some penalty. But it still isn't enough to keep up with that BMW. It's an absolute rocket ship in a straight line. Christopher Smith races as well, I think, was the driver we saw pitting in rather early. So I think I would imagine have a lighter car than those around him, which does help him out, and it's a little bit of a clever way to get around the early pit stop, is having a lighter car at this stage when everyone's got slightly heavier. They can't have enough pace to overtake you. Let's have a look again at the most recent laps here. Lewis Ward did manage to basically return that time he lost on the previous lap this time around. They are so evenly matched out in front. Gives it an excellent little bit of strategy battle as the two BMWs start to squabble. I see Stuart Clark ahead of Paul Gosling into turn 1 is the 164. Paul Goffin going to fancy a little bit of a move here on Paul Gosling. Back with the Pauls. Not quite close enough here in towards turn 2.
You can still hear the McLaren's paddle shifts from even outside the car, which frustrates me because it's a horrible little annoying noise. One of those noises that just probably digs into your ears, and it's a very odd thing that it's so loud on the McLaren. But either way, Paul Goffin wrestling it at the moment. He started 15th in this race, so to be a position higher than where you started is always a win in my eyes in motorsport. As Paul's very late on the brakes, I think kisses the back of Paul Gosling's BMW there for just a moment. There was certainly a noise came from it. Well, I was just going to sort of make the point that all the BMWs everywhere that we were seeing seem to be battling with someone, but Christopher Smith has now got a gap of about a second behind him to Brian Crowles, and he's actually started to move forward and look at Ben Gregory as a target here.
Yeah, but Ben Gregory's been hanging on to that 4th position for quite some time. He's basically accepted all comers to try and challenge him, and none have been able to succeed at this point. So we'll see if this BMW might prove a little bit too much, and you can see that it's starting to get a little bit of understeer coming in towards Le Mans though. The car's so nicely balanced through there, and you can just see how close they get to the grass without touching it. Use all of that runoff area. I'll follow as well. The lap times coming through from Callum Brunt and Lewis Ward, because yet again they are close, and Callum Brunt has just done his personal best, fastest lap of the race so far, 2 tenths faster than Lewis Ward. I don't know, Chaz. Lewis is going to start to sweat as he sees those times come through, sees that gap open up. He knows that he's going to have a quicker pit stop towards the end of the race, but he's going to realise, even if he's out ahead of Callum Brunt, that Mercedes is really quick, and I don't know if he'll be able to hang him off.
I don't know if he will either, to be honest with you. Callum's doing a fantastic job, isn't he? 209.21, as you rightly said, against the 209.43 of Lewis Ward. We saw Christopher Smith going into the pit lane there, and I've had word from Gary Toll that his VR did die, unfortunately. It's a bit of a more widely known issue now, apparently. He said it was fine until that lap. He went out and he just had a really sudden slowdown, and then it became a bit of a slideshow, and iRacing crashed. Just says that he hopes he doesn't cause or didn't cause any issues for anyone that was following him. Luckily, there wasn't any sort of incident, there wasn't anyone immediately around him, which is good. But it's a massive shame for 0 points for Spontex CDM Esports tonight, and I'm not even saying that in a biased way. You know, it's never a good day at the office when your team scores 0 points when you've got 2 cars out there, but I suppose we started with 1 tonight, so not that bad. But this is a great battle to keep our eye on. Dan McCauley now is up 3 places from where he started. You can see the lighting is definitely getting even prettier now as all the shadows cast from many angles with different headlights and shines and shimmers from all over the place. And Rob Sharp is giving Brian Crowles a right workover, isn't he? Look at this.
Oh, this is where your PC is really starting to wear away as it calculates all of the lighting. We're going to have to see now this brilliant move all the way around the outside. He's going to have the inside for this little Le Mans sector here. Up the inside, he should have the momentum to carry himself through, but needs to be careful to get it back under control in time for the all-important right-hander, because you can see that Mercedes is going to have a nice exit, and there could be a challenge and answer back in towards that all-important sunset bend. But actually, Rob Sharp has got such a good drive that he's able to pull away just a bit from Brian Crowles, and Brian might be looking more behind than in front. That Aston Martin, they all seem to sort themselves out though, but that was an excellent move, wasn't it, by Rob Sharp, just taking advantage of a slightly squirrely 48 Mercedes.
Yeah, it was really good, really tidy stuff, very textbook from Rob Sharp, and it's what we've come to expect from him now. You know, he wasn't the most experienced racer when he came to us in the Porsche Club of Great Britain Championship, the sim racing series that they had over lockdown, and now Rob has really displayed himself as one of the big hitters in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Dan McCauley wants to make sure he cements himself as one of those as well, as he puts himself down the inside of Brian Crowles. Lovely move by Dan as well into the left-hander at turn 2 in through Gurney Bend. It looks like he's got it all sorted out, and Dan now has gained 4 spots from where he started, and he's on for some good championship points. This BMW battle carries on as well. Paul Gosling chasing Stuart Clark. Paul Goffin hasn't been able to make any inroads on these guys yet. But the battles are all the way through the order, actually, Ed, because we've got Christopher Smith just behind Rob Sutherland, and then he's got Philip Hopley with him. And then even further back, we've got Ralph Mayer and Heinz Mayer for Toto's Lemmings, literally following each other off the end of the cliff as someone gets out of the way. I think that's Andy Marston. Bossman is just circulating at the moment to finish the race. I'm not sure if he's got some sort of hardware issue or something, but he's been in the pits a couple of times and then gone back out, unfortunately.
Yeah, there must be something wrong for Andy at some stage in this race, and Ben Gregory now is going to try and make sure nothing goes wrong for him as he deals with Rob Sharp in behind. Since there are so many cars up behind, he's seen BMWs in behind, seen Aston Martin, seen Mercedes in his rearview mirror. Now he's got a Porsche, the only Porsche, but it's a bit of a bigger worry because look at how close it is closing down in towards this sector of the track, which is so quick. You've got to have a car that's dialed in. Obviously, you can't change the setup, so you need to use the way you drive the car and coast it in early on, and then really focus on the exit. Rob Sharp is ever so close, and I think will be a big concern from Ben in towards this sunset bend, as Callum Brunt did extend that gap to 3 seconds before he came into the pits. Did short fuel at that most recent pit stop, so is likely to come out in behind Lewis Ward as they come ever so close to touching just behind Ben Gregory and Rob Sharp battling it out for fourth place. There's a bit of a touch. Rob Sharp gets a massive snap, but recovers it beautifully. Oh, this is spicy stuff.
That was very spicy indeed. Let's have a look at this again then. So we'll go on the chopper view. You can see Ben just tries to tighten the line. Rob has a bit of a wiggle mid-corner, and they have a little kiss and then a little bit of a cuddle on the exit and then just about get away with it. But that's fantastic stuff.
Perfect stuff.
Yeah, they both carry on as well. That's the main thing. And I think credit to iRacing over the years, that would have caused both cars to spit off in different directions a few years ago. And now the cars can dance around, they can rub each other, and they can have a bit of contact here and there and get away with it. And it makes it so much more entertaining to watch. And one thing we always praise about iRacing is the way the cars move on our screens and the way they behave. It's so realistic. But the fact they can have little bits of contact like that now and still get away with it, that is just smashing stuff. And can you believe this, Ed, that Callum Brandt is ahead of these lot as he's come out of the pits? But then again, the top two were about 14, 15 seconds clear of everyone else. So makes sense, really.
He's in the perfect window as well. He's got 9 seconds to the car in front that's likely to pit in the next 6 minutes or so. So he's not likely to catch up and get held up. He's right in the window where he needs to be. The worst thing that could have happened for Callum Brandt and his chance of winning this race was to come out in traffic and lose time to Lewis Ward. So now he's got that opportunity to really pump in the lap times and chase Lewis Ward. He won't be able to see Lewis Ward, but will know exactly what he needs to do, and that is just drive as fast and as hard as he can to keep that gap down. Lewis Ward, like we say, is likely to have the shorter stop and come out ahead of Callum, but the momentum and the wind is certainly in behind that Mercedes. Lewis continues on, does not respond. The only thing he can do is lap as quickly as he can, but his last lap was a 2:09.86. Not a very good lap at all. There might have been a few mistakes creeping in as he's feeling the pressure. That's a little bit better from Lewis, 2:09.38. But again, it's going to be so difficult for him to know what his rivals are doing at this stage. You won't be able to see them in the relative. You won't really be able to get any information on the lap times unless he's got someone there spotting for him and telling him exactly what's going on. And it's the time as a driver that you absolutely hate, is not having information on your rivals and not knowing what they're going to do, because that was why I really lost out to Simon, because he did exactly this. He'd come in earlier and have a slightly longer final stop, but have that shorter middle stop, and I wouldn't know what he was doing. I wouldn't be able to tell what lap times I'd have to do to respond, and in doing so, it'd get in my head too much. I'd make mistakes, and I think that could be what we're seeing from Lewis Ward.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the hardest things you can do is chase numbers. When you've not got a visual target in front of you and a visual reference point to whether you're closing in, whether you're quicker than somebody, or whether it's even making a difference at all, it is so tough to not get in your own head and pile pressure on yourself from that point onwards. So absolutely, I think you're right now that both of them could be crumbling under different sorts of pressure, but it's that Callum needs to make sure he holds the lead and Lewis needs to now make sure he makes the gap back up again. It's pretty bonkers. It's great to watch though, as are these two. The flying formation BMWs right now of Stuart Clark and Paul Gosling swapping positions once again. Rusty's roast racing ahead of Boosted Motorsport B. All the while Paul Goffin's got the best seat in the house for a big burly Beamer battle. I absolutely love it. We've got Ben Gregory and Mike Horder still in the top three for Boosted Sim Sport. Dan McCauley in fourth, John Barnes in fifth. But of course, we wait for that to all sort itself out with pit stops. There are the drivers that have done 2 stops or 1. Callum Brandt, as you see, has done 2 stops. So too has Rob Sharp and Christopher Smith. Those two are separated by about 9 seconds as well, though, so no immediate battle for them. Brian Crowell's also pitted a bit early as well, but he's now got traffic in the form of Rob Sutherland in front of him. So Brian's not come out in the best of positions here, Ed, and could lose out in the long run.
We'll have a look. Lewis Ward into the pits now. This is crucial for the lead of the race. Where is his main rival, Callum Brandt? As we watch Lewis Ward. There we go. Callum Brandt just coming out of Le Mans, going towards Sunset Bend. You can see the sun has already set, and you get that nice, lovely sort of peach hue in the sky as he's chasing him down. You'll probably be able to see that lead is pitting now. You get that call in from the iRacing spotter, so it is flat to the floor and just go, go, go. Mike Horder will be loving this, that he's able to lead a lap. Probably his first lap led in this SRM GT4 challenge, so why not relish it? Here we go.
Oh,
Callum
wow.
Brandt coming across the line. Where is Lewis Ward? He's on the pit exit. They'll be close as they come out. There is Lewis. And here is Callum Brandt attacking into turn 1. He's going to be within slipstream range. It was to be expected that Lewis Ward would have the lead on account of that short to stop. But it's so much smaller than he was hoping for. Let's not forget when they made their first round of pit stops, they pitted at the exact same time. But Lewis Ward had a 5-second advantage that's now come down to just 1.5 seconds.
Fantastic stuff, and it's great to see that even in just a 1 hour long race, not 6 or 12 or 24 hours, just a 1 hour race, if you spice it up with a couple of pit stops, you limit the fuel, it can bring strategy into it in such a strong manner. It's absolutely epic stuff. Mike Horder does continue on and lead this race, but this theoretically is going to be the battle for the lead in the long run now, with just 12.25 minutes of this race left to go at Sebring. The light is very quickly fading. It's getting darker and darker, and Lewis Ward is now potentially going to be feeling the pressure, because we saw that the McLaren wasn't the fastest at Road Atlanta at the end of the race, but we also saw, Ed, that Mercedes is a real demon at the end, and so too is Callum Brandt at the wheel.
Was this not the battle that we saw for second place last time out in behind
It
Simon
was.
Pony, who eventually won? Well, now the stakes are just that little bit higher. This is for the race lead, and we're going to see a huge defence from Lewis Ward. The slipstream will work in Callum Brandt's favour all the way down this back straight after the Le Mans bend. And already Callum Brandt has closed down. It was 1.5 seconds. It's now 1.3. Oh my word, this is absolutely epic stuff. You say it's going to be the battle for the lead in the long run, but it's going to be in the short run because there's only 11 minutes remaining in this race. Mike Corder comes into the pits. Brilliant stuff from him. He looks like a sure shot for that last podium place. Of course, with his teammate there waiting in the wings. Should anything go wrong, it's likely to be a boosted motorsport third position. Now, here we go. Lewis Ward will retake the lead of the race. But for how much longer will he be able to hang on to it? Because Callum Brandt is now 1.2 seconds back. This is getting closer and closer, and he will know that it's going to be a really tough ask to keep that Mercedes behind.
Oh, a bit of contact there between Ben Gregory and Dan McCauley. Dan had the inside line. Ben wanted to try and squeeze him to the inside. He gives him a bit of a tap on the way in. The two of them having a good old scrap, though. Great to see these two.
Brilliantly here.
He has, actually.
Don't forget, he was behind Ben.
He was, yeah. Rob Sharp, actually. 4th place. Again, just showing us that in the long run, he's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And he's so much quicker than when we first watched him as well. I love this for Rob Sharp. He's great entertainment. I'm going to have a look at where
he keeps doing this. He keeps flying under the radar as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's not flown up the order because he started 6th on the grid, so it wasn't like he was very far down, as Matthias 10 was earlier on after his earlier off, and he's now back up into, well, it was 7th. It's now 8th again. Now John Barnes defies him. But eventually, Rob Sharp went, in the last 5 rounds of Season 1, Rob Sharp went from 13th back up to 5th in the championship.
Oh, this should be a tasty move if he pulls it off here. Sorry to cut across you, Chaz.
I shut my mouth very suddenly because I thought, oh, way up. Is he going to do this? But unfortunately not this time round. Let's have a look back at the front then. Lewis Ward, 1.2 seconds, nearly 1.3 seconds ahead of Callum Brandt. So it's not changing massively at the moment, but each time they go down these long straights, that tiny bit of slipstream is just going to slowly drag Callum up to the back of that McLaren, isn't it? Wherever he can just gain that extra little bit. As long as he can keep it tidy on the infield, these back straights, and the main straight at least, will help him a lot.
Yeah, they certainly will, but of course the pressure is mounting for both of these drivers. Lewis Ward knows that Mercedes is likely the faster car in these sorts of conditions at the end of the race. But also Callum knows there isn't a lot of time. He can't afford to hang about. He needs to go now or never for these sorts of race-winning moments. Again, we'll have a look at the lap times they've just put through. Lewis Ward will come across the line and do a 209.24. Callum Brandt a 209.3, so it's a 10th in the favour of the Apex Racing Academy driver. But again,
Callum's gone off.
So close, and that Callum's just had a bug moment, and that is going to be huge. He's going to lose a lot of time. The gap now up to 2 seconds, and so crucially outside of slipstream range.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe just pushing a little bit too hard. He might have seen that the lap time was different, and he thought, right, I need to really push this now, but unfortunately it doesn't work for him. How good does Sebring look at night now, by the way? This I mean, it looked good anyway, but it looks even better now down this main straight with the fence in the way of it and the motion blur and the lighting. This looks absolutely spot on. And I think we're just at the right point now where it's not completely pitch black. We can still see the cars pretty much. There's nice little silhouettes against the road without any major lighting on them. And Mark Johnson's having a good race as well, actually. He's slipped through the darkness up into 10th place, started 12th on the grid. Chasing down the BMW right now of Christopher Smith, who despite his off earlier has only lost 4 places in the whole race, and that in itself is a very, very good effort because he clouted the walls so hard, didn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But then as well, when we have a look at the race that we've seen from Mark Johnson, this is exactly what he wants for his championship. He's had a really rough start, so to bounce back so quickly with a really nice top 10, this is going to start to ease his nerves to give him a bit more confidence into the remainder of the season. So it's wonderful to watch as we get Christopher Smith up the inside of John Barnes. Lovely little move up the inside, and John can't really go for a cutback manoeuvre as that BMW parked wonderfully on the apex. And Christopher Smith, we were talking about recovery drivers, he has been a real star.
Yeah, it's been very under the radar, hasn't it? But great stuff all the same from him. It's a bit close still ahead with Dan McCauley and Ben Gregory. Further back we've got Paul Goffin and Paul Gosling just within a second of each other. This is the BMW chasing down the McLaren which seems to have turned on a little bit towards the end of the race. Paul's gained 2 places from where he started in this one. Biggest mover so far in the field, I believe it's a tie between, well, once again, Ryan Penny, who's very good at doing this. He always gains the most places in these races. He actually gained the most places in a race once when he had COVID and was really suffering with it. We told him to race and he did. So as I said last time, if you want to go fast, get COVID. Mike Horder has gained 6 places, and it's very fitting, I think, to be fair, Ed, that he's gained the most places in the field, and he's importantly done that to gain a podium spot. So there's some of the toughest nuts to crack, as I like to say, near the top part of the field as well. So there's 6 very difficult places to gain. Hats off to Mike.
Yeah, as well, it was all done in that early phase of the race when every driver was maybe being a bit too rash and desperate to make the moves. Mike was keeping himself very to himself and smart about things, and that's worked out brilliantly for him. Of course, his boosted motorsport teammate Ben Gregory has been doing much the same, gaining 5 positions from the beginning of the race. Thanks, some good points for the team. Also, as RD Simsport, currently 2nd and 8th, which give a big leapfrog over the likes of Simon Povey and Gary Tall in Spontex CDM Esports. But just because they've had a bad round here this evening doesn't mean it's all over the team's championship for them. They've got some very quick drivers. Gary Tall's been woefully unlucky. I have to say he wasn't really fortunate the first round. Obviously, the same can be said here with his VR failure. Simon Povey won the first round of the championship, but misses out here tonight. So it could still be a real shout for the team's championship just from the quality that they have. They haven't been lucky, but they've still been really quick.
Yeah, exactly. And as we've mentioned a couple of times, we've got a revised point system for this season. Last season, if you won the race, you'd get 50 points. Second place would get 40. And that would be a massive difference. Now, I'm a big fan of these savage point systems that really reward the high positions, but to be honest with you, it killed the championship by the halfway point, and it was a 2-horse race between you and Simon, really, until the very end. But at this point now, you get 25 points for winning, you get 1 point for pole position, and then it's 22, 20, 18, 16, and then from 6th place downwards, it's 15, 14, 13, 12, and so on. And you only get 1 point less per position. So with everybody outside of the top 5 even, and only 2 points between positions in the top 4, bar 3-point difference from 2nd to 1st, it's going to be so close all season, and 1 position difference between drivers isn't going to open up a 10-point gap at all at any point. It's only going to be 3 points at the most. So that shows you just how close it's going to be, and I'm excited to see how that looks a little bit later on in the season.
If we can, Chaz, I just noticed that Callum Grant really pushed it into turn 1. I'm not sure if something came up on the event viewer or not, because he ran a little bit wide as well, but he clipped the inside, but he gained a lot of time as well on Lewis Ward. That is now down to 1.6 seconds. He really pushed it into turn 1, and that is going to be crucial for him getting back up into this fight. He's in the slipstream, 3.5 minutes to go. The sun is well and truly below the horizon. Darkness is setting in.
He was 0.3 quicker in Sector 1 alone.
Yeah, he really pushed it in. I'm not sure if anything came up on the event field.
No.
He did run wide and might have got 1x, but it was sublime just to see. But going back to what you're talking about, the point system, and I have to say I am a big fan of the revised changes, and it does benefit drivers, or not really hamper drivers too much, that might miss a couple of rounds. Like I did, I mean, I'm not begrudging it too much, because at the end of the day it was from the university and that came first, and I graduated, which is all good.
GG.
But when you look back and you think about what might have happened, I think the new championship format in terms of the points scored is going to make it really exciting and keep things close right up until that final round, and give a lot of jeopardy and, like we say, keep mentioning the word spice into that final race of the season. Here we go though. Callum Brandt and Lewis Ward will come through. They won't be seeing the white flag just yet. 2 more to go for Lewis to hang on. Will we start to get a bit of nerves coming through? Callum's made a couple of mistakes. Lewis Ward has been completely impervious, but will that be the curse of the commentator? Because if there is any time to make a mistake, it will be now, right into the final 2 minutes.
Well, indeed, the nerves will be rising, and it's going to be exciting to see how this will go. We'll stick with it for just a moment. Just wanted to give a quick...
Mercedes into turn 1.
It looks so planted, doesn't it? It looks so planted. It's so flat, honestly. I absolutely love how beefy, and it's almost like a scale electric car, the Mercedes. It's just so flat. It's really epic. Now, there's a good question in chat by James Holman saying the lap count is going to be tight across the line. Is fuel going to be an issue? I don't think it will be for these guys, but we've seen it for a few people from round 1, so we'll have to see. I just wanted to give a quick word to our sponsors for this championship as well, by the way. We've got Crockery Direct in the top right of your screen right now. They sell amazing quality stoneware and porcelain, and they have very reasonable prices as well, and they don't discriminate between hospitality and home customers. Basically, all the crockery is of restaurant quality. We've got Orris Digital as well. It's an e-commerce consultancy and digital marketing agency as well. They're also a premier Google partner. Mydas Simulations, which is Matt Dorrington, the legend that is. He's an absolute star. He's Matt, really nice guy. He was actually in the championship as part of season 1 as well. Amazing sim equipment from him. If you need any advice or any help or any equipment, then I advise you go to him. And Blinds to Go as well, a UK retailer for blinds, and there are many a joke gets thrown around in our Discord about Blinds to Go and the wonderful Byron Crawford, but it's all in good jest, and Blinds to Go, definitely one of the best places to go for it. I've recently noticed they've started doing TV adverts as well, actually, Ed, which I only started seeing recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw the logo, and it was one of them sort of Leonardo DiCaprio moments where he whistles and clicks at the TV. He sits forward suddenly. I was like, I know that.
Well, that's me. But look at the time as well, Chaz. Lewis Ward to Callum Brandt. It's now just 1 second. It's really closed down, and Callum is so quick in the first half of the lap. That's going to put him well within the range to properly attack Lewis Ward at the end of this race.
One more lap to go then at Sebring.
Nicely. He's going to close down that gap now. Will drop under a second as they come across the line. Barney will wave the white flag there on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see it just going past it. And now in towards turn 1. Fastest lap of the race as well from Callum Brandt. He is going like stink into turn 1. Look at that Mercedes. It is absolutely planted. 7/10 of a second. That is how quick he is through turn 1. Just 2/10 completely gone like that.
Amazing.
Oh my word, Chaz. This is really edge of your seat stuff. But will he be close enough in towards the all-important sunset bend to go for it? Lewis Ward running slightly wide onto the dirt. And again, Callum Brandt closes in. The pressure will tell for any driver, not just Lewis Ward. Here we go now. Under the brakes, that Mercedes so good at getting stopped.
Very good, isn't it?
Hairpin nailed. Absolutely nailed down. Perfect.
It's like it doesn't weigh anything, that Mercedes. He slams on the brakes and it's like he's hit a tree. It just comes to a stop so suddenly. He lost a little bit of time on the exit of the corner, though. I think he might have just been pushing a little bit too hard on the throttle. Apparently, it's very easy to do that in a Mercedes because it lures you into this false sense of security, so you can push the back end of the car out, and when it does want to go, it really does want to go. The gap is back down to about 3/4 of a second now, though, as Lewis Ward tries everything he can to wrestle that McLaren through Tower Bend, and now makes his way down towards the Le Mans section of the lap. That big beefy Mercedes makes one hell of a silhouette behind him. He's opened it up again by another 0.5 of a second over Callum Brandt, but it's all about the slipstream now, Ed.
Yeah, he had a perfect run out of Tower Bend, which is what he needed. He couldn't afford to give Callum Brandt any more slipstream to close in towards Le Mans. And look at this exit through Le Mans section. Lewis Ward opens up the corner beautifully, and he has the best run possible, probably the best run of this race from him, all the way down towards Sunset Bend. He will savour this and keep one eye at the Mercedes in the background and one eye at the checkered flag as he rounds his way around the sunset bend. It's been brilliant for Lewis Ward. He can just about hang on, breathes a sigh of relief as he comes out the final corner. Take us away, Chaz, across the line. Round 2.
Apex Racing Academy's Lewis Ward wins round 2 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, only just from Callum Brandt. But those two put on one hell of a show and will have great championship points to show for it. But it has to be said, they have really been the class of the field tonight. What an amazing performance it has been, though, by Mike Horder as well. His first podium in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, and he did it from 9th on the grid. But wow, 22 seconds clear of everyone else. Those boys at the top of the order, Ed, were absolute legends this evening.
Oh, that was something else. I got to breathe a sigh of relief as they just come across the line. They got through in one piece. Ben Gregory just pipping Mydas Simulations to the post for 6th place. I think if there was one more lap, that would have gone the way of Mydas, but credit to Ben Gregory, he held off just about. I think the car just got away from him at the end there, dropping back from 4th place down into 6th. Here we go, though. Late drama here between Fausto Pinto and Rob Sutherland. Here we go in towards Sunset Bend. Can Fausto get it around the outside? This will be as close as you like. He's got the advantage to really attack the corner, but needs to give space up the inside. Is he going to go for a switchback through Sunset? Can he get it to work? He powers on, but hits the bump. Ardy seems what's going to try and cover him off. The rear end goes light for Fausto, and he just can't get the move done. Brilliant stuff there by Rob Sutherland. Put his car in just the right position, gave enough space. Excellent defense across the line.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing racing. So much fun to watch. I hope that shot looked all right with the fireworks at the end there, by the way. I was just trying to make sure that I turned it there. I realised on your screen, Ed, it wouldn't have done that, but if you see the stream back, I'd managed to turn the camera like an IndyCar camera, so we've got the fireworks in the background. Anyway, Lewis Ward takes a very well-deserved victory. He was great at Road Atlanta last week. He was great here at Sebring. And, I mean, Callum Brandt, twice in a row, we've seen him come through the field. Well, I'll say through the field. Started 3rd on the grid and got 2nd place straight away, but he came from behind and closed in the gap and made a strategy work, and he was an absolute superstar once again. I think if he doesn't get a win before the first half of the season is over, it's going to be an absolute crime.
It will be, but I'll tell you what, he's going to have some stiff competition because there are some really quick drivers here, and there have been better drivers that have gone through a whole season without a victory. So we will find out what happens, but that was an absolutely amazing job by everyone here tonight. Really close racing. If there was any incidents, everyone was respectful about it and gave positions back. It was truly wonderful. Chaz, take us through the results of what was a stunning 2nd round at Sebring.
Lewis Ward takes his first win of the season then for Apex Racing Academy. Callum Brandt was less than a second behind him at the flag after a titanic battle all the way through the race. Mike Horder was in some 22 seconds back, though. They really did get outclassed by those two at the front. Still a mega result for Mike, though. The biggest mover in the field, tied with Ryan Penny, 6 places apiece. Boosted Simsport get a podium as well. Rob Sharp in 4th, another strong result for him. Dan McCauley moves up from 10th into 5th and gets the top 5 for the first time. Ben Gregory finishes just behind him, 7 tenths back in 6th, only just beating Mydas Simulations across the line. Christopher Smith finished in 8th ahead of John Barnes in 9th, with Mark Johnson rounding out the top 10, another under-the-radar performance from him. Brian Crowles unfortunately dropped out of the top 10 before the race was done, but again, great entertainment all the same. Stuart Clark finishes in 12th place after a great battle with his BMW counterpart Paul Gosling. Paul Goffin was between them in the end in 13th position, with John Tusting and John Roberts for Boosted Motorsport 15th and 16th. Rob Sutherland was 17th, just ahead of Fausto Pinto at the line there, who finished in 18th. Ryan Penny 19th, and the last points finisher was Heinz Mayer in 20th place. Philip Hopley was 21st ahead of Kim Such. We didn't see much of the bright green BMW tonight, unfortunately, with Ralph Mayer in 23rd place. Tom Weston was 1 lap down at the end in the Team Sim Racing Community Machine, and then he was followed home by Andy Marston, who unfortunately finished 4 laps down, and Gary Tall, the only non-finisher in that race. And considering we've got 26 cars in the dark at Sebring, Ed, I'd say that's pretty good going, wouldn't you?
That was brilliant, and I have to say as well, we touched on it before, but the bounce performance is really good here. 4 different manufacturers in the top 4 positions. It's what we love to see, the variety here on showing the Cicerone GT4 Challenge. Second to none. We've had some excellent races already. We've only had 2, but they've both been real corkers, and got so many drivers lining up for a chat. So why don't you take it away with the first interview of the evening?
I will indeed. It's a good friend of mine, Brian Crowles, that joins us in the box. Brian, the result didn't quite go how you would have expected, but I mean, you had some amazing battles once again up near the front end of the order.
Yeah, I mean, I joined this. I'm disappointed, yes, but I kind of joined this series trying to get back into the competitive since I've been out for a while, and I gotta say it's been a great learning curve. I have the pace, I guess I don't want to say skill, but I can fight with the people in front. I just need to figure out how to make the tires work on that boat.
Well, that's it. I think sometimes with these cars, I mean, we were talking about the we were talking about the fact that you like turning left, don't you, Brian? So when you got to Sunset Bend and ran a little bit wide, I just said it's because you've got to turn right.
Yeah, the understeer in that thing in that corner was incredible, and I couldn't get my head around. So props to all the other guys. I mean, it's been fair fighting here. There's not really been any stinking battles.
Well, that's it. I mean, the racing between everybody seems respectful and fair, and I mean, it seems enjoyable. Every time we speak to anybody at the end of the night, it just looks like everyone's having a really good laugh.
Oh yeah, it's really good. It's really hard, but fair. To be honest, I don't even know how I managed that start, but help.
You'll take it, I imagine. It certainly worked for you. I mean, Sebring was always going to be a bit of a challenge, especially with the delay on the calendar as well, and the new, obviously the new build for it and the new artwork. But next time, I know that we're going to a circuit that you might enjoy a little bit more. We go to Daytona next time out for another night race. What are you thinking about going there? You must be excited for that one.
I'm really excited for Daytona. I've done really plenty of laps there. So hopefully I can put that together and finally get into that top 10.
Well, it's all turning left, so you should be all right, I imagine, Brian. But still,
there's a few right ones in there.
Well, I'll keep my eye on you for those ones in particular, then we'll see. But again, Brian, always a pleasure to speak to you, mate, and I really hope to see you do well at Daytona next time out. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Just my teammates for sticking through my moaning all night.
That's Jason and Ivan.
Yes.
Oh, bless them. Well, I send them my love. They are fantastically entertaining people. So best of luck for Daytona, Brian. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Fantastic character is Brian Crowles. I've raced with him and organised a few series with him for quite a while, actually. We met through the Vertex Stock Car Cup, and he's just a really good character. He loves his racing at the end of the day, just loves racing anything he can. And like he said, it's a hell of a series to sort of get back into being competitive with, because in these cars you can really race them, can't you? You can properly throw them at each other a bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how many times did we see Ben Gregory banging wheels and doors with Rob Sharp and them getting away with it? It was, I mean, absolutely amazing, wasn't it, coming out of there? And these cars, they can properly, give each other a bit of a fair old door bang, proper touring car style action. We just mentioned one of those drivers in the mix, Rob Sharp, who joins us in the commentary booth. I'll tell you what, mate, you had a lot on your plate there. We were just talking actually about your little battle with Ben Gregory when you were touching on the exit of Sunset. But to come through all of that carnage and chaos with a fourth place, gaining 2 places, you must be really pleased with that.
Yeah, it was an intense race, wasn't it? Ben and I were just having a quick chat about that in the waiting room. Yeah, and how we didn't both die there, I don't know. But it was, I think it was traffic. It was just caught in battles the whole way through. It was just non-stop. But yes, I'm extremely pleased.
And the strategy went brilliantly for you. Obviously, we saw you battling away in behind Ben Gregory for 4th place, and then after the final round of pit stops, you came out 3 seconds clear of him. So what was your little secret in your pit stops?
I think I put in less fuel. So maybe the Porsche drinks a little bit less, but certainly you're quite right. As we approached those final pit stops, I thought I can't just wait until the last moment. I'll do whatever. On the lap I came in, I thought I'll do whatever Ben doesn't do. So he stayed out, I went in. And then, I was amazed to see 3 seconds lead. I thought, oh, thank God, the pressure's finally off. A little bit, at least. I can just concentrate on driving.
Absolutely. But how much was that pressure telling on you? Because you were basically, for most of the race, had a car in front of you and a car behind. And just how much toll does that take on a driver for an hour or 45 minutes?
Yeah, well, quite a lot, absolutely. I mean, I'm sitting in my study, which is freezing cold, and I'm sweating buckets. So, and I'm sure you know how that feels, So, yeah, my strategy is just try and, just run my own race and try not to hit anybody. I didn't do very well there, but and just just keep it on the track if you can, and it seemed to work tonight anyway. But yeah, it was well, there was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, you speak about running your own race, but we come to Daytona, a circuit that's notoriously difficult to only focus on yourself. You've always got someone around you, especially with those long banked straights. There's going to be a lot for you to think about in terms of slipstreaming and battling and strategy. Do you have any confidence that you might have a repeat of tonight?
No.
Blunt?
Absolutely no confidence whatsoever, but I'll just, I'll take it as it comes. I mean, the bus stop at Daytona and turn 1, they're all kind of, high braking corners and, overtaking opportunities as well. And there's also a massive potential for disaster. So, as you say, it's all slipstreaming and, who knows what will happen. We'll just try and keep it together.
Well, I will be crossing my fingers for you, because if I'm brutally honest, I don't think the Porsche is going to be the car to be in around there. It's not exactly the best when it comes to top speed, but I'm sure in terms of the braking down in towards turn 1, that might be where you can sneak a few moves. So we'll keep your eyes open for you there, mate. But congratulations on your P4 finish. Before we say goodbye to you, is there anybody you would like to give a shout out on the broadcast, mate?
Just my wife for taking care of me since I had COVID, and I'm just getting over that. So. So I'm pleased to be able to race tonight. And I'll say hello to my 2 kids, Duncan and Cameron, who may well be watching this. Thanks.
No worries. Thank you very much, mate. And well, obviously you say you're on the end, but still, from me and Chaz, get well soon, bud. And hopefully you're in much brighter health and spirits come Daytona.
Thanks very much, Ed. All right, catch you next time.
Lovely stuff.
There you go, Chaz. Wonderful chat. And again, it just proves what you said earlier. If you need to go quick, get COVID.
Yeah, indeed. And even Martin Kenyon, bless him, before said that he would like to point out, I don't actually want anyone to get COVID. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, of course. I was just joking for the sake of the broadcast and entertainment. Someone that will be a very happy boy tonight, in comparison to last time at least, because he even finished the race this time, will be Dan McCauley. Dan, going up from 10th on the grid, not your best qualifying, but still a solid one at least. To go then into the top 5, you must be pretty happy with that, because it looked quite tough at points.
Yes, but considering sort of the last 24 hours with my relationship with sim racing, yeah, I'll take that. I think made a bit of a mistake on lap 1 and dropped to 14th, but I think if that hadn't happened, we probably could have been in the fight for the podium.
Talk us through these 24 hours then. What's happened there?
Well, Lewis Ward very kindly hosted a practice last night, and as I've jumped in it, Michaelos came in the door. You do the customary go down, say hello, to be greeted with us saying, I can smell gas outside.
Oh.
So we then spent from 9 PM till 4:30 in the morning outside in the car waiting on the emergency gas man.
Oh.
So all my practice time went out the window.
Oh, so it's not sim racing's fault. I thought you just had a few bad races or some officials or something.
No, I would have liked to actually do some laps, but yeah, didn't happen. So I spent the first 40 minutes of practice backwards.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to lie that I did notice. I did wonder, but you've told us that there's a certain part of the race tonight that we need to look at, is that right?
Yeah, I think the race might have been changed in the pits a little bit, and I think Ben Gregory didn't only put fuel in his car, but he might have changed his pants as well.
We are going to try and find it now on the broadcast. Apparently your pit lane entry was quite the one to keep an eye on. We can see you coming around the final corner now, Sunset Bend. And, well, okay. That's cutting it fine, I think is the phrase, isn't it? Flipping out, mate. I mean,
yeah, just about.
Only just made it through the middle of that, but still, great entertainment as ever. The championship gets stronger and stronger. The level here, I mean, inside the top 15 alone, like the top half of the field, it's just bonkers how close it is, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy, especially when you look at sort of the I ratings of everyone's so widespread that the pace is actually really close. I think the strengths and weaknesses of the cars kind of bring people into contention at different tracks, which makes it interesting. I think the Porsche looked insane here. The BMW looked pretty quick on low fuel as well, so they're definitely it's challenging. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, so that's good. I think I'm just a little bit gutted that round 1 happened, because I think that's me pretty much out of the fight, but don't know, we'll keep going and see how we get on.
Well, you never know. I mean, Simon Povey wasn't there tonight. He's one of the big hitters in the championship as well, so you've both got a 0 score apiece for now, and there's only a few points between 5th and 1st because we changed the point system from last season to make it a little bit closer. So we were just discussing before that it could still go any way. I mean, we've got 10 rounds and 8 of them left to go. The next one of which is at Daytona. Are you a fan of the big oval?
I am in a very fast car or a very slow car. I can't say I've ever driven a GT4 round there, so it'll be good fun. But I imagine it's just going to be a crazy draft fest. And then with the McLaren not being so strong in 6th gear, I think you're going to have some absolute carnage into turn 1 for an hour straight. So should be pretty good entertainment.
It was massive entertainment last season. I mean, the Aston Martins turned up for the first time. The BMWs were rapid in a straight line, which they will be again. And I think it's going to be a very entertaining race. So you're absolutely right. Carnage or no carnage, I think Ed and I, at least before everybody else will certainly look forward to it. Is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks to before you go, Dan?
In all seriousness, I'd like to give a thanks to Elvis Rankin's mum for making the perfect temperature sim racing hoodies, and Lewis for jumping in vocal and helping me get through that race.
Cracking stuff. Well, thanks for chatting to us once again, Dan. Glad you got the gas sorted, and we'll hopefully see you again at Daytona.
Catch you next week. Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Well, that's an interesting sort of thing to interrupt with your practice, isn't it, Ed? I've not heard that one before.
Yeah, not me either, but I will say it is good to have, obviously, good chat with Dan McCauley, who's looking forward to Daytona. And I will say, Aston Martin doesn't go too badly around there, if memory serves right.
No, it certainly doesn't, mate. I think it's going to be a very, very exciting race meeting indeed. But the championship is certainly shaping up to be a beauty. We've had 2 of the best races we've ever seen in the championship, and they've been rounds 1 and 2 of the new season. It's been a pleasure to commentate with you again, Ed. Thank you very much for jumping in this evening, and we'll of course see you next week as well. Thanks to everyone that's been watching as well, to all the series sponsors, to drivers, teams, everyone involved. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've been Chaz Draycott with the wonderful Ed May here on Chaz Draycott Media for the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We'll see you in a week's time at Daytona. For now, have a good evening.
Opportunistic, still rubbing panels as they go together. It's folded the wing mirror in on Gerardo's car.
Misano is such a difficult circuit for these guys to get right. There's a lot of start-stop sections around the back. It's a very, very quick section as well.
It's a fantastic start from the 23. They're 4 wide there by the look of it.
Warning. The following video contains flashing imagery that may cause discomfort and or seizures for those with photosensitive epilepsy. Viewer discretion is advised.
Tell me somebody how long he will be on my mind. You will be on my